and kind of progressing in the responsibilities, that there really isn't that much more scope, because I have one supervisor and I have complete freedom in pitching my ideas, and I lead on my projects. Yeah, and then there really isn't. There's only a way from this organization.
Yeah, okay. But you're saying that existed. That was still the situation before the pandemic, so it's not deteriorated.
So it's very hard to. It's hard for me to know. And there's also, I mean, I'm trying to think of things that could advance a career, and that could be things. I'm trying to think of things. Maybe that's working on different projects that are like task forces or working groups where one can kind of contribute and then be seen for the contribution that one makes. We have those, I participate in those, but they're generally not recognized.
Right.
So no one who participates in and that is probably quite sensitive, but I would say that people who participate in these add-on activities are not being recognized. Generally, we also see that it tends to be a majority of women who participate in these activities that are ultimately there to benefit the organization, but there's little recognition for that work, and it also not always gets taken up.
Okay, and so you would say that was the situation even before the pandemic again?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
So that really nicely ties me into my next section, which is about visibility. So thank you for that. So just thinking about, what does visibility in the workplace mean to you?
Okay. I think to me, it means being seen for the contributions that are being made.
Yeah.
And that is either through being able to speak and present to the ideas that one has generated, so not having someone else present.
Yeah.
Or when someone else is in a forum, to present the ideas to clearly attribute them to the person. And then, sounds silly probably, but for me it's also our intranet, because that is where things happen, especially since COVID.
Yeah.
Our intranet is where colleagues can show their work and ensure that colleagues across the house know what they're working on.
Okay.
Know what they're doing. And then, I think access to management for me is also part of the kind of visibility in the workplace that I think is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so generally you'd feel it's important to be sort of visible, and particularly in kind of building your own career and profile?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. Just thinking so in terms of thinking about the different groups of people that you might work with. So it might be your immediate team, there might be a wider sort of department or stakeholders, and then there might be senior leaders. So thinking about those three groups. Before the pandemic, what do you feel that you did with each of those three groups to ensure that you were kind of visible or building up your visibility?
So generally, so just a kind of generally the organization or staff across the organization, mostly it kind of came with my job responsibilities, because I also, it's part of my TR to actually ensure that there's a conversation being had about gender diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
And then also I coordinate a lot of the gender mainstreaming work where we support substantive teams. So as one of the first things that I did, and it's difficult for me because I usually don't think about my visibility as an individual so much. It's easier for me to think about the work that I do. Yes. And then that also facilitates me being visible for the work that I do. Okay. So what I did was I set up workspaces on the intranet. We have collaboration platforms. Okay. For these different topics, and I curate them. So I regularly post updates that are related to either of these kind of a little bit different themes. Yeah. And I offer training sessions that are open walk-ins so that I could also form more relationships with colleagues. They would know that they can come to me about specific things, either related to internal work or the external work. And yeah, I think then also reach out actively to colleagues to connect. Yeah. Yeah, to build connections. Thinking about the kind of smaller team, I try to, in the pandemic especially, remind myself to meet for coffee and tea to build relationships. Right.
And that's a sort of virtual meeting, or also people that are in the office? Yeah.
Yeah. So we also, in the beginning of the pandemic, what I did was I shifted our brown bag lunches to the virtual space. So within the first month of the pandemic, I organized 4 brown bag lunches. Yes. Which was really because we were testing out how to do things in the virtual space. Yeah. And we were testing how we can connect with colleagues, how we can still share knowledge. I think that helped our work, but also the visibility of our topics in the organization. Yeah. So things like that, writing articles and sharing them on the internet. Okay. With leadership, I have to say, before the pandemic, probably not much. Okay. And that is because I have my supervisor who stands before me and is the one who's ultimately responsible for a lot of our work. Right. So in her dynamic, she takes on that role, and there's not a lot of space for me then there, because the organization is hierarchical and it's sometimes difficult for her to get a place at the table. Okay. So I think she is also navigating her visibility and navigating her relationships with key senior leaders in the organization. So that for me, in the first 2 years especially, I did not concentrate on that so much. Right. Probably my enduring visibility was to try to build personal relationships with leaders. Okay. So because we are small and we walk across the corridors, they all know my face and they know my name. And that was my goal. And they probably think that I'm always friendly. And I speak up in meetings. So that is a small thing that I did. Probably not enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so just to pick up on one thing that you said there around your line manager, because I don't want to put words into your mouth. But you sort of said that because it's hard for her to even build her own visibility. You feel that she's not necessarily then also bringing in the team. She's not finding it herself being able to bring the team into visibility with senior leaders. Yeah, I would say that it's changed in the last year or so, but I would say that the situation that we're in as a team, it's sometimes difficult for us to get time, face time and space to participate meaningfully in meetings. And if there has to be a prioritization, then, sometimes there's not space for others then. Yeah. But I wouldn't, I'm struggling a little bit because we are very transparent. So I I actually have a lot of access to information
right,
on senior leadership.
Yeah.